After the chaos and disruption that marked Trump's first year back in office.
You don't have the cards.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Amor. We're going to run the country.
Is there any way to predict what's next? Yeah, meet the National Security Strategy, or the NSS. If Project 2025, the policy paper that turned out to be a blueprint for how Trump's term started, well, this lays out what's next. And reading in between the lines,
2026 could be the year where people's fears are realized.
This is not only a question with Venezuela.
It is unpredictable and to a certain extent unreliable.
NATO's on a knife edge.
well, buckle up. So, what is the NSS? Every few years, Washington publishes what is basically a guide for Congress and all facets of government. It lists the administration's goals, and spoiler alert, it makes United States control and influence over the Western Hemisphere the main priority.
Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen.
A point made painfully clear as American forces swooped in a stunning nighttime raid to capture Venezuela's president, Nicolás Maduro. Part of the justification and cited in the national security strategy, a 200-year-old political policy.
All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore.
First articulated by James Monroe, the 5th U.S. president, the Monroe Doctrine asserts America's supremacy in the Western Hemisphere. Now rebranded the Monroe Doctrine. And Trump is already taking his cue, threatening other countries in the region from Colombia.
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long.
To Mexico.
Mexico has to get their act together because they're pouring through Mexico, and we're going to have to do something.
In Buenos Aires, international relations expert Juan Tocatlian has been watching with concern. What do you think of this idea of Trump now talking about actual land attacks inside Mexico and also attacking the government of Colombia, with at very least his words?
Today, the armed forces of the United States are completely aligned with Trump, with Hexet. So this is not only a question with Venezuela. This has a lot to do with Colombia. It has a lot to do with Mexico.
But he says Trump may soon have supporters. After recent elections in Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia, there could be a major sea change in the region.
Then we have elections in Peru next April, May in Colombia, and October in Brazil. In these three cases, right-wing, extreme right-wing parties had a chance to win. If that is so, suddenly the United States, suddenly Trump, will have the capacity to align the whole South America. And that is a major change in the last quarter century.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a look at the country that gets the least mentions in the NSS. Here it is, Canada. Carrie Buck is a former Canadian ambassador to NATO. As I quote the document, she worries about the implications for Canada. The United States must be preeminent in the Western Hemisphere as a condition of our security and prosperity. What does that say for our own sovereignty?
Well, it's like I said, back to the 19th century, where the equality of states, the legal equality of states, it's enshrined in Article 2 of the UN Charter, kind of goes up in a poof of smoke. So our sovereignty is there and is framed as something to be dominated.
Buck is also disturbed by the language.
And it essentially, I think, cedes Europe to Russian sphere of influence and increases the risk of Russian escalation, including potentially outside of Ukraine, I think. It attacks the EU, it undercuts NATO. NATO's pretty important to us. I think that NATO's on a knife edge, to be honest.
While the 2017 NSS document from Trump's first term said, Russia aims to weaken U.S. influence in the world and divide us from our allies and partners. But the new NSS says the priority is to re-establish strategic stability with Russia.
All this is essentially driving a Mack truck through the infrastructure that's NATO. It's increasing the chance that there'll be Russian aggression on NATO territory, even more than there is right now.
Carl Bildt was the Prime Minister of Sweden from 1991 to 94. He's watched the America he worked with change dramatically.
We have a situation with the United States, we have to be frank about that, where it is unpredictable and to a certain extent unreliable.
And yet the NSS says the U.S. wants Europe to regain its civilizational self-confidence and welcomes the influence of what it describes as patriotic European parties, a phenomenon occurring in Sweden and across the continent.
Migration has been a major issue, and criminality associated with migration has been a difficult issue for many European countries, Sweden included. And we have seen the rise of a party to the extreme right, which is now around 20%.
And as the president himself has expressed,
Well, Europe is a different place. Keeps going the way it's going. Europe will not be, in my opinion, many of those countries will not be viable countries any longer.
in fact, the NSS worries about a future where NATO members become majority non-European.
Where is that coming from? I mean, it's something that they must sort of found on the garbage heap of the extreme right somewhere, because it doesn't correspond to any sort of reality.
So let's move from Europe to another part of the world, Asia, specifically China, where the economic balance appears to be the main focus, much to the dismay of Gordon Chang. He's the author of Plan Red, China's project to destroy America.
I did not like the idea that President Trump did not identify China as America's primary adversary, because I believe that we should be talking about China in the same terms that it talks about us. It identifies the United States as its enemy.
The NSS focuses on rebalancing America's economic relationship with China and building multi-trillion-dollar alliances to counteract China's growing power. When it comes to the contentious future of Taiwan, it states the U.S. does not support any unilateral change to the status quo. Chang wants more.
I believe that the President of the United States should get behind the Resolute desk in front of the cameras and say that the United States will defend Taiwan.
And yet, in this document, it mostly frames China as an economic competitor. How do you square that circle?
I think that Trump is not Ronald Reagan. If Ronald Reagan were writing that document, he'd be saying China is the evil empire. But Trump doesn't do that. When you look at what Trump has been doing, things that aren't mentioned in that document or have occurred since then, you got to really be concerned if you're a Chinese aggressor.
So, what a cheerful look ahead, right? Turmoil in the South, serious questions about China, the future of NATO, and more. In the face of all of this, what can Canada do? Well, according to Ambassador Buck, Canada needs to emulate a humble Canadian creature, and probably not the one you're thinking.
Like a duck, strategic patience and calm on the surface and paddling like mad underneath. So move quickly to diversify those trade and defense relationships, even quicker than the PM has said. We're going to have to manage this with some very deft diplomacy. And that won't just happen in Washington and Ottawa. It's going to happen in other places around the world where our interests and the U.S. interests don't align.
Paddling forward in the choppy water ahead.